Watch any gathering where men compete for attention. The pattern reveals itself immediately. One displays his possessions. Another boasts of achievements. A third demonstrates physical prowess. Each performs, competes, demands recognition. They exhaust themselves in the theater of approval. But observe the one who remains still. Arms folded, expression calm, words measured. While others scramble for notice, he simply exists, steady and unmoved. The irony cuts deep. Those they seek to impress keep glancing at him, the silent observer, not the desperate performers. What separates him? Not wealth, not appearance, not credentials. Something far more formidable. Something Machiavelli understood when he wrote The Prince 5 centuries ago. Something that transforms ordinary men into forces of nature. The Florentine master called it virtù, but this was no simple virtue. It was the capacity to command without coercion, to lead without pleading, to influence through presence alone. Every prince who maintained power, every leader who shaped history, every man who left his mark understood this principle. It cannot be purchased. It cannot be inherited. It must be forged through discipline and cultivated through wisdom. Today's world doesn't teach this. Society rewards noise over substance, performance over presence. But the difference between men who beg for respect and men who naturally receive it remains unchanged since Machiavelli walked the streets of Florence. What he observed in the courts of Renaissance Italy applies with brutal accuracy to the modern world. I will show you what truly confident men possess and how you forge it within yourself. But understand this truth first. You cannot fake it. You cannot pretend your way to it. It must be built from the foundation of your character through relentless self-mastery. The first weapon, emotional fortification. Machiavelli observed that princes who reacted to every insult, who answered every criticism, who allowed themselves to be provoked by lesser men, never lasted long. Their enemies learned their patterns, exploited their weaknesses, manipulated their responses. The emotional man is the conquered man. Most men remain prisoners of their reactions. An insult arrives, and anger follows automatically. Criticism appears, and defensiveness erupts without thought. Someone attempts to disturb their peace, and disturbance comes every time. This makes them predictable, controllable, weak. The confident man builds something different. He constructs emotional fortifications so robust that external chaos cannot penetrate his inner kingdom. Words bounce off him like arrows against stone. Provocations slide past him like water off marble. He remains centered while storms rage around him. This was Machiavelli's insight about fortune. He wrote that fortune controls half our actions, but we control the other half. The half we control is our response. External events will come. People will test you, provoke you, attempt to knock you off balance. Your power lies entirely in your response. Consider the prince insulted in his own court. If he erupts in anger, he appears weak and easily manipulated. If he ignores the insult entirely, he appears diminished. But if he pauses, considers, then responds with measured words that cut deeper than any outburst, he demonstrates mastery. That controlled response communicates more power than any emotional reaction could achieve. This doesn't mean becoming emotionless. Machiavelli never praised cold indifference. He praised calculated expression. The confident man chooses which emotions to reveal and when to reveal them. He feels deeply but displays strategically. His emotions serve him rather than ruling him. When someone attempts to provoke you, pause. Breathe. Feel the impulse to react, then let it pass. Respond from choice, not compulsion. That gap between stimulus and response is where your power lives. Expand that gap through practice, and you become untouchable. People respect what they cannot control. When others realize their words and actions cannot disturb your equilibrium, they automatically perceive you as operating on a superior level. They may not understand why, but they feel it instinctively. The second weapon, strategic absence. Machiavelli understood something most men miss entirely. Constant presence breeds contempt. Scarcity creates value. The prince who appears everywhere, who involves himself in every minor matter, who makes himself endlessly available, diminishes his authority through ubiquity. Watch weak men. They attend every gathering. They respond to every message immediately. They insert themselves into every conversation. They believe visibility equals importance, that presence equals power. They couldn't be more wrong. The confident man masters strategic withdrawal. He doesn't attend every party. He doesn't reply to every text within seconds. He doesn't participate in every discussion. Sometimes his most powerful move is absence. Machiavelli wrote that men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand. They see what you show them. When they see you constantly, you become ordinary, expected, taken for granted. When they see you occasionally, you become memorable, valuable, appreciated. This principle operates everywhere. The friend, always available, becomes invisible. The friend selective with his time becomes treasured. The man who responds instantly seems desperate and without options. The man who responds thoughtfully seems occupied with important matters. The truly confident understand that scarcity amplifies value. When you're everywhere constantly, always responding, endlessly available, you become common. But when you choose carefully when to appear, people notice. They wonder about your activities during absence. They actually appreciate you when you do show up. Learn to withdraw strategically. Leave gatherings while energy remains high. End conversations before they exhaust themselves. Make people desire more of you, not less. This isn't manipulation. This is understanding human psychology as Machiavelli did. We value what we cannot easily obtain. We dismiss what comes too readily. The prince who remained mysterious maintained his authority. The prince who explained every decision, who made himself constantly accessible, who sought approval through availability, lost respect rapidly. Apply this lesson. Your absence, used strategically, becomes as powerful as your presence. The third weapon, economy of expression. Machiavelli observed that wise princes spoke little and listened much. They understood that words are weapons, and like all weapons, they lose effectiveness through overuse. The prince who commented on everything, who shared opinions constantly, who filled every silence with speech, revealed too much and commanded too little respect. Most men talk excessively. They fill silence with unnecessary words. They share opinions about matters that don't concern them. They comment reflexively rather than thoughtfully. They believe more speech equals more influence. They're mistaken. The confident man treats words as valuable currency. Before spending them, he asks 3 questions. Does this need to be said? Am I the right person to say it? Is now the optimal time? If any answer is no, he remains silent. Consider Machiavelli's observation about how we estimate a ruler's intelligence by examining the men around him. I would add that we estimate any man's intelligence by the ratio of his listening to his speaking. The man who talks constantly becomes mere noise. The man who speaks occasionally becomes worth hearing. When you reduce your speech, several transformations occur. First, people pay greater attention when you do speak. Your words carry more weight because they're rarer. Second, others assume your thoughts are more carefully considered, more deeply pondered. Third, people share more information with you because you're not competing for speaking time. This doesn't require becoming antisocial or rude. It means being intentional. When someone requests your opinion, provide it. When a conversation needs direction, offer it. When someone needs counsel, give it. But stop filling silence simply because it exists. Stop sharing thoughts that add no value. Stop speaking merely to hear yourself. Machiavelli knew that the prince who revealed everything through constant speech gave his enemies too much information. The prince who spoke selectively, who chose his words with precision, who let silence work for him, maintained power through mystery and authority through restraint. Silence itself becomes a weapon. When others babble and you remain quiet, they reveal themselves while you remain hidden. When they exhaust themselves with words and you conserve yours, your eventual speech carries disproportionate impact. When they fill every void with noise and you let silence exist, you appear more thoughtful, more controlled, more dangerous. Master this economy of expression. Speak when speech adds value. Otherwise, let your silence communicate your confidence. The fourth weapon, commanding physical presence. Machiavelli understood that appearance matters enormously in the acquisition and maintenance of power. He wrote that everyone sees what you appear to be, but few experience what you really are. The prince must therefore master his appearance, his bearing, his physical presence. This isn't vanity. This is strategy. Most men focus entirely on what to say while ignoring how they carry themselves. This reverses the proper priority. Your posture speaks before you utter a word. Your eye contact communicates before you form a sentence. Your energy affects the room before you make a sound. Communication consists of only 7% words. The remaining 93% is body language, vocal tone, and physical presence. Yet most men obsess over the 7% while neglecting the 93% that actually determines impact. The confident man masters his physical presence. He stands like he owns the space he occupies. Not arrogantly, but with quiet certainty. Shoulders back, chin level, movements deliberate. When he enters a room, he moves like he belongs there. He makes eye contact but doesn't stare. When someone addresses him, he faces them fully. He doesn't fidget. He doesn't shift weight constantly. He doesn't check his phone nervously. He doesn't play with objects unconsciously. These might seem like small details, but they communicate enormous messages. They reveal whether you're comfortable in your own skin, whether you respect yourself, whether you expect to be taken seriously. Most men have terrible physical presence because they're uncomfortable with themselves. They slouch to appear smaller, less threatening, less present. They avoid eye contact to escape judgment. They fidget to discharge nervous energy. This communicates insecurity louder than any words could announce it. Machiavelli would recognize this immediately. The prince who slouched, who averted his gaze, who displayed nervous habits, lost respect before opening his mouth. The prince who carried himself with composure, who met gazes steadily, who moved with purpose, commanded respect automatically. Your physical presence either reinforces or undermines everything you say. Master it, and people sense your confidence immediately. They feel your self-assurance before you demonstrate it through words or actions. This advantage cannot be overstated. Stand like you respect yourself. Move like you trust yourself. Occupy space like you have a right to it. These physical manifestations of inner confidence become self-reinforcing. As you carry yourself with greater presence, you actually feel more confident. As you feel more confident, your presence strengthens further. The fifth weapon, detachment from outcomes. Machiavelli wrote that fortune is like a woman, and the young, who are more impetuous, command her better. But I see a different lesson. The truly powerful aren't impetuous. They're detached. They act decisively without being desperate. They pursue objectives without falling apart if objectives aren't met. Most men are attached desperately to specific results. They need the interaction to go well. They need the venture to succeed. They need people to like them. This neediness radiates from them like heat from fire. It repels the very outcomes they desperately pursue. The confident man operates differently. He cares without being needy. He tries hard without being desperate. He wants things without crumbling if he doesn't get them. This detachment is his secret advantage. Consider dating. The man who needs her approval becomes boring and predictable. He says what he thinks she wants to hear. He laughs at unfunny jokes. He contorts himself into someone he imagines she'll like. She senses this desperation immediately and loses interest. The man who's genuinely curious about her but completely fine if no connection develops becomes magnetic. He remains himself. He says what he actually thinks. He's engaged but not desperate. She senses this confidence and finds herself drawn to it. This pattern repeats everywhere. In social situations, the man who needs everyone's approval compromises himself constantly. The man comfortable being himself regardless of reactions naturally attracts people. In business, the desperate man accepts bad deals. The detached man walks away from anything that doesn't serve him, which paradoxically creates better opportunities. Machiavelli understood this principle deeply. The prince who needed to be loved made decisions from fear of losing popularity. The prince who could accept being feared when necessary made decisions from strength. The prince detached from any specific outcome could assess situations clearly and act decisively. This doesn't mean you don't care about anything. It means you care about executing well while releasing attachment to what happens next. Work hard, then let results unfold however they will unfold. When you stop needing things to go a certain way, they often go better than expected. When you stop chasing approval, you often receive more of it. When you stop being desperate for success, you become more likely to achieve it. The truly confident man ties his self-worth to his character and effort, not to outcomes beyond his control. This liberates him to take risks others won't take, to be honest when others manipulate, to walk away when others cling desperately. The sixth weapon, unshakable inner foundation. Machiavelli warned that the prince who neglects what is done for what ought to be done learns his ruin rather than his preservation. Translation: you cannot base your stability on how things should be. You must build it on what actually is, specifically on what you actually control, which is only yourself. Weak men are boats without anchors. They drift with whatever current is strongest. Their mood depends on external circumstances. Their confidence fluctuates based on other people's opinions. Their energy changes based on what's happening around them. They're at the mercy of forces beyond their control. The confident man has something fundamentally different. He possesses rock-solid inner stability. He stays centered regardless of external chaos. His confidence comes from within, not from others' thoughts about him. His peace doesn't depend on everything going perfectly. This inner stability comes from knowing who you are and what you stand for. When you have clear values and principles, external chaos cannot shake you. When you have genuine self-respect, other people's opinions lose power over you. When you have real skills and capabilities, you don't need constant validation of your worth. Build this stability through consistent practices. Exercise regularly to strengthen both body and mind. Read challenging books that expand your understanding. Spend time alone to know yourself deeply. Develop skills that give you legitimate confidence. Create a life that doesn't require perfect circumstances to feel meaningful. The man with inner stability doesn't need external validation because he validates himself. He doesn't need perfect circumstances because he creates his own peace. He doesn't need others to complete him because he's already whole. This stability is magnetic. People are drawn to those who remain calm in storms. They seek out those who seem unshakable. They respect those who don't need their approval to feel good about themselves. In a world of chaos and insecurity, stability stands out like a lighthouse. Machiavelli observed that the princes who lasted built their power on solid foundations, not on fortune or others' goodwill. The prince whose confidence depended on his army's loyalty could be betrayed. The prince whose confidence depended on the people's love could be abandoned. But the prince whose confidence came from his own character, his own capabilities, his own virtues, could withstand any storm. Build yourself into that kind of man. Make your foundation so solid that nothing external can crack it. This doesn't happen overnight. It's built through thousands of small decisions to choose discipline over comfort, truth over approval, growth over stagnation. The seventh weapon, calibrated intensity. Machiavelli wrote that the prince must imitate both the fox and the lion. The fox to recognize traps, the lion to frighten wolves. Neither works alone. The fox without the lion gets eaten. The lion without the fox walks into traps. The prince must be both, switching between them as situations demand. Most men are either too intense or not intense enough. They're either trying too hard in every situation or not trying at all. They haven't learned to modulate their energy based on what the moment requires. They're stuck at one setting. The confident man masters controlled intensity. He can be completely relaxed when the moment calls for calm and laser-focused when action is needed. He knows when to be the quiet observer and when to be the decisive actor. He matches his energy to what actually matters. In casual conversations, he's relaxed and easygoing. In important discussions, he's focused and engaged. In crisis situations, he's calm but decisive. He doesn't waste high energy on stupid situations. He doesn't bring low energy to important moments. He adapts while remaining authentically himself. This controlled intensity shows up in how you handle conflict. The man who's always aggressive becomes predictable and exhausting. The man who's always passive becomes a doormat. But the man who's usually calm but can become intense when truly necessary becomes someone people don't want to cross. It shows up in how you pursue goals. The man who attacks everything with maximum intensity burns out quickly. The man who approaches everything casually achieves little. But the man who conserves his energy for what truly matters, who can shift from relaxed to intense seamlessly, accomplishes far more with far less waste. Machiavelli understood that the effective prince couldn't be predictable. If he was always merciful, people took advantage. If he was always harsh, people rebelled. But if he was generally fair yet capable of severity when necessary, people respected him and didn't test his limits. Apply this principle. Be generally relaxed and approachable. But when someone crosses a line, when a situation genuinely demands intensity, shift gears completely. That contrast between your usual demeanor and your intense mode creates enormous impact. People think twice before provoking you because they've seen that you can access intensity when needed. This calibration requires emotional intelligence and self-control. You must read situations accurately. You must manage your energy effectively. You must access intensity without losing control. But once mastered, this ability separates you from men who only know one gear: the transformation. You now understand what Machiavelli understood 5 centuries ago. True confidence isn't about being the loudest, flashiest, or most entertaining person present. True confidence is about inner stability that cannot be shaken, emotional fortification that cannot be penetrated, controlled intensity that adapts to any situation. This is what separated the princes who maintained power from those who lost it. This is what distinguishes men who naturally command respect from those who beg for it. Your strength doesn't come from external validation. It comes from internal mastery. Starting now, begin forging these weapons. Notice when you react emotionally instead of responding thoughtfully. Observe how often you talk versus listen. Pay attention to your physical presence and the energy you bring to different situations. Catch yourself when you're desperate for specific outcomes. Most men will continue the performance. They'll keep seeking external validation. They'll remain emotional prisoners, bouncing between confidence and insecurity based on circumstances beyond their control. They'll exhaust themselves trying to impress people whose opinions don't matter. But you can be different. You can develop the kind of quiet confidence that commands respect without demanding it, the kind of inner strength that influences without trying to control. This isn't about becoming cold or emotionless. It's about becoming unshakable. Machiavelli wrote The Prince not as a fairy tale but as a manual for reality. He understood that the world rewards strength, not weakness. That people respect power, not neediness. That fortune favors the prepared, not the wishful. These truths haven't changed. Your confidence should come from who you are, not from what others think of you. Your peace should come from inner stability, not from perfect circumstances. Your power should come from self-mastery, not from controlling others. Develop these principles, and you'll never need to chase respect again. It will come to you naturally as a consequence of who you've become. The choice is yours. Continue living at the mercy of external circumstances, or forge the inner strength that makes you truly dangerous. Your silence is your strength. Your stability is your fortress. Your controlled intensity is your secret weapon. In a world of desperate men performing for approval, you become the one who needs nothing from anyone. That makes you dangerous in the way Machiavelli understood. Not dangerous because you seek to harm, but dangerous because you cannot be controlled, manipulated, or broken. That is what makes the truly confident dangerous.